What's going on, Spitfires? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Spitfire Podcast. I'm your host, LeMunyan, the Spitfire Coach, and today I am joined by Laurie Battaglia. She is an amazing strategic advisor and coach, and we get into some pretty dicey topics. We talk about the difference between a coach and an advisor. We talk about the potential red flags that you may encounter if you're looking to hire a coach or an advisor. And then we talk about the deeper work that is needed in the coaching space and really in the leadership space in humanity. We get into it. There is cursing in this. So if you're listening to this in the car and you got little ones, this would be a time to either wait or put some earmuffs or introduce them to the magical world of cursing. If you want to see the video version of this, it is in a 3-part series on our YouTube channel at Spitfire Coach, or you can look at this on our website, spitfirecoach.com. And as a reminder, if you're not already subscribed, head on over to where you listen to your podcasts. We're on Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other places. I hope you enjoy today's show.
So the first ICF event I ever went to was in Casa Grande, Arizona, and it was this thing that the Phoenix chapter and the Tucson chapter used to come together midway. And I got to see really great speakers that day. And one of them was a high dollar ticket coach. And what she said was, a broke coach does no one any good. And by the way, the person who I was sitting next to who brought me was head of the Phoenix chapter and very much into the coaching methodology of only ask empowering questions. So bear that in mind. So a broke coach does no one any good. And the second thing that she said was, if you've got the answer, tell them. They're paying you for the answer.
They're paying for the answer.
So as ICF coaches, we think that we are brought along in the methodology of ask empowering questions. The answers are within, but sometimes they aren't. And so I think that's why when you said you want to talk about coaching versus advising, I was like, yes, I have opinions on, oh, you know me.
I got opinions.
I always have an opinion, but I do have an opinion on that.
You know, there's so many different lanes and avenues to go down with that. First and foremost is kind of the epidemic of the broke coach, which I absolutely want to dive into. Maybe not today, maybe we'll get to another one, but it is a epidemic like of grand proportions, and people are selling a book of lies to get you to spend more money and make them rich.
Yes.
And also the mindset that leaks into your coaching sessions when you have that scarcity mindset of like, I just need to sell this business. I just need this client to stay on board. And it creates the really gross oversell and also codependency models out there.
Yes, I would agree with that. Where, I can't break away from this coach because you've got this kind of lock on it.
Yep.
And that doesn't do anybody any good either.
No. And then when we talk about coaching versus advising, coaching, I would venture to say that is a much more intimate practice than advising. And so people are entrusting you as the coach with a lot of personal details and dreams and visions. And if you are basically like leaning into that when you could be advising, there's a different energy that's coming out of each. And I think a lot of people are crossing some hairs and wires and muddying the waters a smidge.
Yes, I would agree with you. And I think the other thing is I had a conversation with my executive coach about who is part coach, part advisor. And she said, you're out of integrity. You're not a coach. And I said, you're a strategic advisor. And I said, yes. And she said, then why not call yourself that, or a business advisor? I can't remember, but an advisor. And I said, because unfortunately, the world comes looking for executive coaching when they're looking for what I bring to the table.
Do you think that's changed?
I think it's just starting to.
Because I would almost say that the word coach is becoming way too overused and a bit of a turnoff for people.
Yes. And yet I think sometimes the reason people get an executive coach is because a mentor, a boss, somebody that they really respect or report to says you need an executive coach because they had one 10, 15, 20 years ago, and it made all the difference. And so I kind of have this niche where one of the things I've done is work with women leaders as they're stepping from just under the C-suite into CEO. especially of nonprofit organizations, and these are larger or moneyed nonprofit organizations. And some of them have been indigenous organizations, and that brings a whole different flavor to it. But having someone to walk you through the mindset shifting that has to happen when you go from running part of the organization, or oftentimes it's the folks who are in the development world and they know how to get the money and they have the relationships. It's an easier step for them sometimes into CEO position than it even is if you're a COO or something like that. And I think it's the relationships and the ability to make money that gets you into that CEO position. But now you got to balance the board, you got to balance yourself, you've got a family, many of them do.
Hmm.
How do you not let your relationship die because now suddenly you're like out every evening, and where's your boundaries and where do you draw the line and how do you look at things differently?
No, it's a lot of facets to be
Yeah,
examining. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look, if you've seen it, but so ICF actually just recently, like in the last 2 months, updated their core competencies to
Oh, I did not see
incorporate
that.
what we're talking about. And essentially, what it does is it says it acknowledges that the coach might know things beyond what the client knows. And so
Yes,
the only like change that I see is that there is now a more open door to offer it up to the client. If the client asks for it, requests it,
yes,
and says yes to the approval of it. And again, it's
yes,
it's all permission and safety based,
yes.
because they were seeing, I think, so much rigidity in between that. Like, am I the consultant, the advisor, the coach? And I think if we
Right.
use our time today to kind of like help people better understand, like, what are those roles, where do they work best, where do those like
Hmm.
lines of separation need to be, and where can they play in the same space?
Right. Yeah, I love that. And I've also functioned as a trainer from time to time because training leaders is in my background.
Hmm.
And so sometimes, and I always say, I think in puffy clouds. So I'm a 30,000, 50,000 foot person, and I think in puffy clouds. And sometimes I speak in terms that people don't understand. And so I find that sometimes a good model, whether it's mine or somebody else's, I'm like, let me show you a picture. And I start, getting my phone out and pulling up, a picture of this. Look at this. Here's some structure to it. So sometimes I feel like a trainer
Hmm.
as well when somebody's stuck and I'm like, oh, there's a methodology for that you
Hmm.
can follow.
So a trainer shows the methodology, teaches. What would you say an advisor does?
I would say an advisor is probably much more on the do this, don't do that, or careful there. You don't want to, I would say here's a line between a coach and advisor where I would say, be careful. I don't think you should do that versus, well, let's explore what would happen if you did, what would happen if you didn't. And sometimes I think the advisor is there because they've been at a different level and they can see it more clearly than what this person can. And that was always my story in corporate life was you're at a certain level and you think you're like really informed, and there's a whole different ball game being played up here, and maybe higher than that if you're in
Hmm.
a hierarchy, and most of us have been. So yeah, I think advisors can they're more telling you
Hmm. Based
than
on their
they
personal
are asking.
experience, based on their experience and
Yes,
career track.
yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
So the telling more based on experience, and then the coaching is the coach may have had that experience, but they're really there to kind of help you play in the space of exploring
Yeah,
different avenues. So the client is the one making the decision.
exactly.
Where do you see
Mhm.
mentor showing in? Is that I'm hearing a lot of similarities between mentor and advisor. Do you see any differences?
Oh, gee whiz. Yes and no. I think in both cases, so I served as a mentor before I got into coaching. I served as a mentor a lot. And what I found was that people didn't always do anything with the conversation.
Mm.
So I'd be like, oh, Lauren, oh my God, I've been there. Let me tell you how I did that. And would that be helpful? Yeah, okay, good. And I'd go through the thing. And then I would overwhelm them with
You fire
all of
hosed
it.
them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can't talk fast when you come from near the Philadelphia area, then who are you?
I hear you.
So I can feed a whole lot into a short amount of time. And nothing, some people would take it and run with it, or they'd run with a little piece of it. But oftentimes people were so overwhelmed they got into like, oh, I don't even know how to do that. That sounds monstrously bigger than I thought it was. So I think I did some mentoring. Now when I mentor, it's much more of a check in more often. Only provide what's asked for or needed at that moment in time.
Hmm.
So it's chunk downable. But when I was mentoring, I was brain dumping
Hmm.
all the things.
Well, and how many
Um,
mentors actually get paid?
none. Well, I
Well,
don't
so
think.
so that
I
was
mean,
what I was gonna like scratch away at because
yeah,
is it the overwhelm or is it the personal investment in the actionability?
probably both.
Mm.
Because I'll tell you, at times when I knew I needed to hire somebody to help me with X, but I knew it was going to be a pricey investment, I had to make darn good and sure I was ready to make that change.
Hmm.
Because and sometimes, coaches would internalize that, like, oh, they don't think I'm worth it or they don't see the value. Oh, yes, I do. I'm not ready to make that shift right now, and I know when I am, and I'm going to have to get uncomfortable and it's like wanting to lose weight.
Well,
You
it's a
know?
lot of legwork and there's mental overhaul, emotional overhaul, all that stuff. Like none of the
Yeah,
real work that we
right.
do
You're
is
right.
is a checklist light touch.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I would actually say that the stuff that is doesn't have that lasting power. You might do the thing, but you're not transforming and becoming this new version
Right.
of yourself.
Right. Right. I would agree with that.
So who do you think is most aligned or who would be kind of like the situation based or the profile of the person who would be best suited for an advisor?
I think oftentimes advisors, if people are taking advice from you, they want to know that you had some of that background before. And,
Hmm.
and that's the thing I see get people kicked to the curb, like, well, you weren't in this kind of role, or you were that, but you were in this industry, and I'm in that industry, and they're
Hmm.
very different. And I will tell you that yes and no. Usually, if it's people issues, they are universal. The language is different, the structure is different, but a good advisor or coach, because that is oftentimes a complaint for coaches too. They were in banking and I'm in construction, and it's not the same thing. True. And it's really easy to pick up the differences because you don't have to know it deeply.
Hmm.
But if I'm going to advise a construction leader on how to run a construction company, I better not play in that space if I don't know what I'm doing.
That is a very interesting and important note to highlight because I think a lot of people get into advising because they're great at strategy and they're good at seeing big picture. But
Yeah,
I wonder how many of them actually know the nuances and the ins and outs and the
right.
regulations of the industry and the space that they're playing in.
Yep, yep. And I think, it again, if it's a people issue,
Hmm.
a leader can describe to me what all's going on and why that's different in construction than it would be, because I'm saying banking because I spent 37 years in banking and finance. And I don't work with bankers and financiers anymore. So there's that. But they can school me on what's different. And I can ask questions about what would happen if you tried this. And then they can give me well, it won't work because, and then I can provide some. So if we don't go either or, then how can you get closer to what you're asking for?
Okay.
So yeah,
So if I'm kind of summarizing this um, correctly, so someone who would be looking for an advisor is someone who's looking for someone who has a similar background, same expertise or higher, who can show them how to do things, when to do things, and why to do things.
I think so. Yeah.
Now, to flip that to a coach, what would be the best fit for someone that's looking to work with a coach?
I think if the coach, I believe in the chemistry call, where you're vetting a couple of different coaches. I've subbed under companies like Franklin Covey that will provide bios to a client and then say, here's Laurie, here's Lauren, and here's, Joe, a third one. And take a look at the bio, see what you think. And it's really a coaching bio with some, background in it. And then from there, that person says, yeah, I'd like to talk to all three. And then they see where the vibe is. I think you have to know what you're looking for. I have won deals based on we both grew up in the Northeast and I understood his background and what he went through. Even though I didn't go through it, he needed somebody that knew what he was talking about. So, because that formed a great deal of who he was.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be really interesting. It's kind of like getting hired for a job. When I do resumes with people, I say, well, if you put that on, it'll draw some people in and it will repel others.
Mm-hmm.
Take your chances.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing with a coach. I believe that you look at the skills, you look at their background, and then you see where the vibe is or what one offers that the other one doesn't. Our company has lost a deal at one point because our person didn't provide a another coach provided a strong framework, like a 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
that CEO was looking for that. We wouldn't have known that. Our guy actually had a strong framework, but it didn't come up in that conversation.
Mm.
So we didn't get the deal because somebody else offered something that vibed with that CEO in that moment.
Which is interesting because the 1, 2, 3 framework sounds to me more like an advisor than a coach.
Bingo. Yes, yes,
Yeah, it's funny. I get on all these calls with people. They're like, "So what's your process?" And I'm like, "Well, I
yes,
need to understand your goal, and we're going to explore your goal, and then we're going to understand your values, and then we're going to take it from there and see what happens." And they're
right.
like, "What? But where's my checkbox?" Like they're
That's
so used to their curriculums.
yes. And they want it in a box, in a like coach in a box or give me a toolkit,
Yep.
which
Fix
is
my
very much the
thing.
one. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to shift your thinking
Yes.
and then we can get to the, and then I'll train you.
Yeah, then once you get the foundational transformation, then we can start learning the skills and frameworks and all that
And
fun
then you'll
stuff.
look at it all differently. And you
All
might
new.
not even need the skills and framework at that point because the brain has shifted and the internalized who you are has shifted. And I think that takes small steps over time. I don't think it's an overnight shift.
What based on your experience of things that you've seen out there are some red flags that people should be aware of, either looking at a coach or an advisor? So languaging on their
Hmm.
website, guarantees, anything like that.
My dad always said, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. So I look for things that sound extraordinary. And if every single person's having an extraordinary experience, I'd want to talk to some of them and say, yeah, why? What's up with that? Because I'm a bit of a skeptic with that. But I would say guarantees. It's great if they have coach training and certification. I will tell you, in all honesty, I let mine lapse during COVID. I was going to renew it one more time. So I got to PCC level. You're way ahead of me at MCC. And I just I couldn't get the documentation together. It's not that I didn't have them. I was struggling during COVID to get people to give me the documentation
Mm.
for this many hours and this many hours. And I sat and thought long and hard about whether I was going to continue or not, and decided not to. And then it was really funny because I almost did. And then they gave me an extension, I almost did. But I knew I was going to just struggle to get those numbers together. And I was turning 65, I think, at the time. And I thought, you know what? I can probably use my old white lady privilege, as I call it. And people know I have the training and the prior certification. And now I'm positioning myself more as a strategic advisor. So that's not what you asked me, though. Red flags would include things like no schooling whatsoever in it. I override that in my own mind when somebody has had years of doing it successfully, because I know people who have been coaching since, like, I went to school in 2010, 2011, and I know people who have been doing it for 10 years before that and 20 years before that. They were forming the thing before the certification was there. That was me as a leadership trainer at Vanguard. I was there when there were no classes on how to do it. And so as we certified, then I became a certifier, but I never had the certification. So I think there's people out there still, they're
Mhm.
usually in retirement now, but there are people out there who have been doing it for a long time. They're highly effective and they have no coach certification whatsoever. So I think look for coach certification, though, look for an ACTP school. And for those that are watching this, don't know what that is, that's an accredited coach training program because it's an all-in vetted by the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, before you ever step foot in class. I also like it when people are learning new things. And you can see that on their LinkedIn profile. You can see that they're keeping up with where the world is headed. Because it would be easy to look at this face and this hair and go like, but I can teach you things about AI that other people probably couldn't. I'm thinking about how that scarily starts to replace us as coaches, if it does, and what that means to all of us. So don't judge the book by its cover. What are some of the red flags that you look for when you look at coaches, if
You
you
know,
were bring one?
it's really funny. It's the same thing that attracts me. I'm like, oh, this is a really nice website. I'm like, oh, but what are they actually doing? Like
There's that.
if everything is so shiny and pristine and like all these perfect pictures, I'm like, how do they
Mhm.
actually show up in session? Or I'm immediately looking at, are they trying to sell me on their framework, on their package?
Yes.
But yeah, if you're not certified, I'm not taking you seriously.
Yeah.
It's just like to me, I need the code of ethics. I need you signing on to
Yes.
core competencies. Like you got to be on my wavelength, especially as an MCC. Like I wouldn't just go and work with
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah, that would be bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, if I was working with
Yeah.
an advisor, obviously they don't have to be certified. I would want someone who has a longer trajectory in business. Like if you just started your business 2 years ago after being, middle management and nothing higher, that doesn't really serve me in any way.
Right.
So it's something that I've got to like want to excel to or exceed to be
Yes.
attractive. And honestly, that's why I've had the hardest time in finding coaches and advisors because
Yeah.
I can run circles with
Yes,
people.
you can. Yes.
I am a mental
Yep.
gymnast when it comes to deflecting from my shit.
Yep.
I know this about myself. There are only two people in my life that will not fall for it. Ebony is one of them, and my
Oh,
husband is the
yeah.
other.
Ebony falls for nobody's shit.
Ebony's like, cut the shit.
Yeah.
I'm not giving her last name out because I don't want her to get
Right. No,
harassed.
no, no,
But
nope.
this like there's very few people that can catch me in that space, and it's been a challenge of mine because I always say coaches should have coaches, therapists should have therapists. Like we all should have people within our profession
Right.
that are challenging us to be better. And
Right.
I have a lot of coaches around me, but it is a major gap, and it's not a blind spot because I see it loud and clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
But it
think
is hard to find. It
it
is hard to
is.
find them. And I'm like that with like leadership training. I want to go learn new things. I went to an AI thing.
Man,
I
I
could have
just
taught the class,
I just
you
did
know.
one, Lori. I called them out. I said, this is putting people in harm's way. You are telling people to go and just teach this about, I'm not going to give the certification. You can go on LinkedIn and find out which one it was.
Yeah.
But it was basically like about team dynamics. And I'm like, there is so much underlying trauma here that this is gonna, like, even the best well-behaved teams have it under
Yes,
the surface, and it is
they
only a matter
do.
of time before they pop off. And hate to break it to you, the ones that are investing in this for their team are the culprits.
Yes.
They're doing
Yeah,
it.
I find that so often. It's
So,
like, go fix those people. And I'm
well,
like,
they had labeled it was like one of the last slides of the last modules, and it was like the unhealthy behaviors. I said these aren't unhealthy behaviors, these are stress responses. And the
yeah,
fact that you're making it about the person experiencing the unhealthy behavior is victimizing them further instead of giving them a space to actually flush it out.
right.
Like what the
Yep.
mm,
Seriously.
so mad. So you know what I did? I took their model and I'm combining it with the 4 stages of psychological safety, which I love, and I'm turning it into my own model. And I will give them credit and sourcing, but it's junk. There is so much flipping junk out there.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, there
spent
really
money on
is.
it. I was so mad.
There really is. And there's the experience that you have of sitting in the room with people and understanding that. And like I said, I've done the degrees and the certifications and years of sitting in there and you know what else really helped me? I had this great boss, Pam. And Pam came into the back of the room whenever I trained, and she was who taught me to facilitate.
Mm,
She wrote down every single thing I said and did, then made an impact column, and then discussed keep it, kudos, do more of it. And that was as helpful, if not more so, than now this one, is that what you intended?
hmm
Like, no, I don't even remember what happened. And then, okay, well, this is what happened. What would you do differently next time? And I could think it out in the quiet of a conference room where you're sitting down talking to this, and there was no punitive, Pam didn't have a punitive bone in her body.
Yeah.
She was somebody that thought there was great things in everyone. And I remember her asking three of us who were cynical thinkers versus Pam the feeler one day, well, don't you find something good in everyone? And the three of us looked at each other, I was much younger then, and went, no.
Mm-mm. Did you ever do positive intelligence?
No, I have not.
Okay, so there's this whole thing in positive intelligence, which is if you disagree with someone, find the 10% you agree with. And I was like, fuck that. I'm like, you're a piece of shit. I don't want to talk to you. But
Yes,
I do use
yes,
it with my clients because it challenges them to think curiously of like what is the
it
one piece
does.
that they agree with on they're on the same team. So it's like
Right,
you have to get along with these people. Like I
right.
don't.
And I think it's funny too that you and I can teach things, and then as human beings, we show up and like, I gotta say, I other people, put them in the, well, those people kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not a lot, but often enough. And I have people who will call me out on that. And sometimes I just want to sit and complain
Mhm.
with friends and
That's
then
why I
say,
started this show, Lori.
right, I don't know what came over me. I'll go back out and do better.
Yeah.
So,
We have to allow ourselves to be human. And sometimes you got to just release and vent. Like we are not meant to be
yes,
contained in perfect beings.
no,
We can
right,
become better, but in order to do that, you got to let the messiness show. And that's where the teaching and the learnings come from. Like
absolutely.
literally like 3 weeks ago, I couldn't get off my couch because I was like just in a state of where's the world, where's my business, what's my life, who am I? And I
Yes,
had to like have a very honest conversation with myself and like my inner circle. And it's like, holy shit, a lot of people feel like this. You're not
yes.
alone. How about you get ahead of this and actually like talk about it instead of hiding?
I like that point of view very much. The get ahead of it. What can I be doing now? Because when I worked in corporate, oftentimes they came looking for, where can we reduce heads? And of course, training was one of those places.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really short-sighted thing. You should be doing more training when the
Absolutely.
world is sucking,
Yeah,
and then be ready for when it takes off again, because these things are cyclical. And
they
I
are.
have watched them over decades now, like go down, go back up. Is that a bump? Is that going to correct? What's going to happen here? It's going to come back. It always does.
Yep.
And so why not be ready for when it goes
Yeah.
back up?
Now is not the time to hide. Now is not the
No.
time to like sit back and wait for someone to tap you in. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of people, like the business owners I've been talking to, a lot of them have been very fortunate to have business just flood in. And I said, so you and me too included,
Yeah.
I have never had to go out and get business.
Got it.
And this is now the time you got to be a hunter, but you've got
You
to like,
do.
you got to figure out what your new bait is to
Yeah.
lure them out and to get them in. Not that you want to kill your clients, but you want to be
No.
able to seek them out and provide value. And I
Right.
think a lot of people have gotten away with a lot of fluff. And I think that this is the opportunity to really transform your messaging, your value proposition, and also like your level of service. Like,
Yes.
this is not the time to succumb to mediocrity.
Right. I would agree. And it's about having really good people on your team that can propel you forward. I've had great people to work with over time, but there have been times when there were two, I said to my husband, I want to go find a place where I can be the dumbest person in the room. Like, I want to go find that.
Right?
And I want to find where I'm not sitting back thinking I could teach this stuff. That would be my ideal situation. And I have found that a couple of places finally. But I think I just heard a really good story from someone, and I'm going to like really clean the details out of that because I don't have permission to share. But this person is a really high level speaker and has multiple businesses and, came from rough beginnings and all those things. Could have gone off the rails and then military and now like really killing it. And this person loves this one brand, and the brand just got sold
Mm,
for hundreds of millions, but not a billion. And they are good enough at what they do that had they known that brand was going to get sold for that, they probably could have put financing together to get it themselves. But what was happening was before that brand was sold, the person was pitching them to speak or work with them or whatever. And nobody on his mastermind group was saying, the hell with that, you should buy it.
Hmm.
And somebody else bought it. So he had just landed the deal and then it got sold. So the message there is like, are you surrounded by people who are like, good job?
Hmm.
Or are you surrounded by people who say, Lauren, let me throw something at you and see what happens.
Hmm.
And if it scares you, it's probably the right thing to really think about,
Yeah.
you
My
know?
my go-to when I work with clients, especially when I do innovation mindset, I go, does that number make you want to throw up? No?
Right. Yeah.
Increase it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
And that's not
And
just financially, it's more of like efficiency or adding headcount or reducing expenses or things like that.
yeah.
But if you're not challenging yourself, then you're staying in the same patterns. And that's why, man, this is like another offshoot conversation of that why SMART goals just need to stop being used because all they're doing is replicating what you've always done. There's nothing
Yes,
that's
very
stretching you
much.
out of having to learn. There's no learning goals in it.
Yes. Yes. And I wrote something at one point, and the bummer is I've got people on my team who are really superb and are into the neuroscience and the why and all that kind of stuff. And I always say, like, I don't need to know why, I just need to know that it works.
No, I
Uh,
have a video of like why you need to stop asking why.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Simon
I
Sinek needs to shut
agree.
up. And
Somebody said to
your
me
why
five whys.
doesn't
I'm like,
matter. Your why
I
doesn't
know.
matter.
I'm going to slap you if you make me do five whys.
Like, seriously. Also, in
Yeah.
coaching, we don't ask why questions for a very good reason because all it does is circle you backwards.
Yes.
And we go present to future. So
Exactly.
cut it out. Just cut it
I
out.
would even question best practices
Hmm.
because of what you just said about SMART goals. I think we are at a pivotal point like nothing else I've ever experienced. I think COVID was our wake-up call, where we got to decide what role we wanted work to have in our life and how we were going to live. Because most of us, not all of us, the essential workers were out there. They sure didn't have time to think straight. But most of us that were in jobs where we could stay at home or, stay cloistered, we really had that time to think or, do something different. So I think that was full stop number one. And then we're at a point in history where we're starting to repeat history that should be remembered by some of us who are older. And yet we're still going down those paths. So I believe that what is here needs to crumble and then move forward. Who's going to be ready for that? You are. I believe I am, but I don't know that everybody is ready for that. And there's a lot of trying to hang on, trying to go backwards, believing stuff that's not true,
Hmm.
all that.
Well, I mean, the common theme between you and I is we have looked introspectively and we're very self-aware and curious beings, and we've done a lot of internal work. And if
Yeah.
you look at the majority of society, it is very much still in this reptilian brain of
Yeah.
this is what it is, threat, safety,
React.
binary, reactive, stress, cortisol. Like people are addicted to stress, and so they're constantly
Hmm.
seeking out conflict. But what we're
Hmm.
asking people to do is a very brave, courageous, scary, and sometimes very destructive process. Like
Yeah,
you literally have to tear things down within
you
yourself.
do.
And you've got to be in a space where you can do that. You have to find a support system where you can do that. You have to have a
Yes.
trusted third party to do it. And that is a human experience. That is not, oh, I'm fine because I had a happy childhood. It's like, no, boo, you ascribe to a whole belief system of
Right.
misogyny, patriarchy,
Right.
racism, white supremacy, and we all
Right.
have to unpack it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the first thing we have to do is admit that it's there
Yes, you
and
may not
listen
have
to
been a
people.
perpetrator, but you are still continuing it on by not addressing it.
Yeah. It's the water that we, swim in. It's the air that we breathe. It's like
Everywhere.
everywhere. And sometimes we enforce it on ourselves and don't even know we're doing it.
Yep.
So yes, all to that. I 100% agree. I am big on, even though things move fast and we keep our classes moving, we need to stop and have reflection time.
Mm.
Because the one thing I find with leaders is they don't give themselves the downtime to reflect.
I 100% agree with that. I did a keynote, a closing keynote when my husband was getting readmitted to the hospital for his second surgery over the summer.
Oh,
And the topic was on resilience. And basically what I said is we're going to get through what we can. We're going to go to the essentials. We're going to do all these things. But here's the piece that all of us miss. At some point, you're going to be on the other side of it. And you
Yep.
need to take a moment to reflect on how you did it, how you managed to make it through, what you learned, what you appreciate, what you're grateful for, your support system, and take stock of it, because that's where the
Yeah.
resilience muscle is built. And
Yes.
so many times, and I think this is what happened with the pandemic, is we rushed right back to what we always did. We didn't
We did.
reconcile it. We didn't reflect on it, on what was learned. And
Yeah.
that's why there was that rubber band boomerang effect back to all of the poor practices that are even worse now in how we treat people in the office,
Yep.
and people in society in general. Like the, the racist backlash is insane.
It is.
Um, but I
Absolutely.
knew it was all going to happen. It was all performative.
Yeah.
Neither here
Yeah.
nor there. But all that to say, we all need to, like, the first step in all of this is the points of reflection of who am I and who do I want to be and what can I do
Yes.
about it?
Yes. Am I showing up the way I intend to show up? Have I even thought about what that is?
Yeah.
And what do I stand for? And I'm really feeling that pull
Mhm.
with the end of the year, like how do I want to show up? Who do I want to be? Because what it was last year is probably not what it's going to be next year.
No. And what got you here is not going to get you there. And if anything, like accelerationism is like it's taking off, and I don't think people are even
So
remotely
fast.
paying attention to how fast it's happening and
I
will
would agree
continue
with
to pick
you.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hold on to your butts. And
Yep.
I would like to take this time to just reflect on what we talked about and what you would like our listeners to walk away knowing.
So let's see. Boy, did we talk about a lot of
So
things.
much.
You
We might
know,
need
I
to
mean, we
break this into
started,
like 3 episodes.
I know it was coaching, it was advising, it was what's mentoring, it was all those kinds of things. But then I think that the deeper leadership and who are you really at the core, that you and I are constantly living in that world of and working on ourselves before we start telling other people what. Well, neither one of us has any trouble telling people what to do. Let's be clear. But I think it's that everybody needs to decide intentionally how they want to show up and are they here to do good or
Mm.
not?
Do you think people who don't use their powers for good are aware that they're not for good?
I do not think they are aware.
Yeah.
I think they think they're doing the right thing. I I do believe that there are some people who come on the planet and there's something there's like I don't necessarily believe in the like heaven hell dichotomy. I believe in other things that support that. But boy, I think there every once in a while you run into someone and you're like, I don't know if there's any good in that person's soul. I really
I
don't.
have a family member like that, so I fully ascribe to that. My
There
my
are,
my thinking on that is, the people who do good or bad, in their mind they're doing good for
yeah,
themselves.
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's the messages that we surround ourselves with, the people that we surround ourselves with, where we get our news, what social media we're on, forms how we see the world, our worldview, and who we are and how we show up. And for me, I want to be a bright light in the world. I decided probably about a year or so ago. I mean, it's always been I want to make the world a better place and I want people to be better having brushed up against me in some way. That's my purpose in life. On the other hand, it's like, nope, this is time to take it up a notch. And I want to be the light that says, like,
Mm.
we will get through this and it will be better, but it will be ugly and worse first.
Yeah, it has to be.
It has to be.
It has to be.
Destruction has to come before rebuilding,
Well,
unfortunately.
otherwise you're just using the same components.
Exactly.
You're just putting lipstick on that pig again.
Yes.
And then it starts oinking and we
And
wonder
pigs
what
don't like
happened.
that really.
No.
No.
No. Well, I'm taking a ton away from this conversation too, and all good. Well, I really appreciate this time, and
Same.
we didn't coach each other because this is please don't coach me. We dive
Right.
we dive into all of the topics
Right.
around coaching, in coaching, that people don't really talk about and need to. Um,
Exactly.
and people
Well, I'm here to
absolutely.
expose things anytime you're
Oh,
up for the
you
conversation.
got it. You might be my co-host. This is just how it's gonna roll. What did you see
Cool.
in coaching this week?
Yeah. Right.
What bullshit did you uncover?
I
Because
love
I'm
it.
I'm finding it left and right, man. It is like it's the moth to my flame of the
It
Spitfire
really
coach.
is. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Woo,
with you.
y'all! It is dicey out there. Well, Laurie Battaglia, if people want to check you out, where should they go?
I'm all over LinkedIn. So if they go to Laurie Battaglia, and I think my name will show up and you'll have it in the podcast and everything. If you just go to LinkedIn and you look me up, they can email me at Laurie@aligned@work, and they can look at our website, aligned@work.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And y'all check out Please Don't Coach Me. If you've got questions about the coaching industry, if you have seen some shady shit go down and you want us to look into it, hit me up at lauren@spitfirecoach.com. And y'all keep being awesome.